Hello, listener. Welcome to another episode of the podcast for education exclusively brought to you by Africa Business Radio. Today, on the subject mathematics, we have Miss Queen, and she'll be treating the topic simple interest, and this is for the primary 5.
Hello, learners. I'm Miss Queen, and I'll be your mathematics teacher for today. I'll be teaching primary 5. So get your pencils, your rulers, erasers, papers ready as we learn and flex our muscles. Again, our topic for the day is simple interest, and we'll be learning how to do series of calculations on these concepts. Simple interest is a quick and easy method of calculating the interest charged on a loan. Simple interest is determined by multiplying the interest rate by the principal by the number of days that elapse between payments. In our last episode, we learned how to find the simple interest using the formula, which is I equals P times R times T, all divided by 100, where interest is represented by I, which is the money earned after a number of years. P stands for principal, which is the money borrowed or invested. R stands for the rate, which is the percentage of interest. And T stands for time, the length of time you borrow or invest a particular amount. We did some calculation finding simple interest in the last episode, but sometimes you might be given simple interest and asked to find any of the other variable. It could be the rate of interest, the time, or the principal. And this is what we will be learning today. Let's start with finding the principal when given the value of other variables. The formula for finding principal is basically rearranging the interest formula. We already know that interest equals principal times rate times time. Now, to calculate the principal, the new rearranged formula would be 100 times interest divided by interest rate times the amount of time. So principal equals 100 times I divided by R times T, or we say RT. Let's take some example. Find the principal when T equals 3 years, the interest is $600 and the rate is 4%. First, get all the information you need for the calculation. So principal, which is the money you borrowed, is unknown. The rate is 4%, the time is 3 years, and the interest is $600. Remember the formula for finding principal: 100 times interest divided by rate times time. So we have 100 times 600 divided by 4 times 3. Now we cross out. 4 divides 100 and that gives 25. And 3 divides 600 and that gives 200. So final answer equals 25 times 200 and that gives us $5,000. Therefore, the principal is $5,000. Now let's check to be sure our answer is correct. Find the simple interest now that you know the principal. Remember the formula is principal times rate times time. So we have 5,000 times 4 times 3, all divided by 100, which is the percent from the rate. Remember it's 4%, and that is 4 divided by 100. The 2 zeros in the 100 cross out the 2 zeros in the 5,000. So what we have left is 50 times 4 times 3. And our answer is $600. Yes, we got it. Let's take another example. Find the principal when time is 5 years. Interest is $500 and the rate is 5% per annum. First, get all your information you need for calculation. So principal, which is the money you borrowed, is unknown. Time is 5 years. Interest is $500 and the rate is 5%. So the formula for principal again, 100 times interest divided by rate times time. So we have 100 times 500 divided by 5 times 5. So we have 5,000 divided by 25, and that gives 2,000. Therefore, our principal equals $2,000. That's so easy, right? Now, to find the rate when principal and time are given, the rule is, remember the formula for finding interest again is principal times rate times time divided by 100. So we rearrange the formula. Then, rate equals 100 times interest divided by principal times time. Let's find rates when principal, interest, and time are given. Principal is $3,000, interest is $400, and the time is 3 years. First, you get all your information you need for the calculation. Now the rate is unknown. The principal is $3,000, interest is $400, and the time is 3 years. The rate equals 100 times interest divided by principal times time. So we have 100 times 400 divided by 3,000 times 3. Now the 3 zeros in the 3,000 cross out the 2 zeros in the 100 and 1 zero in the 400. So what we have left is 1 times 40 divided by 3 times 3. And that gives us 40 divided by 9. Our final answer is 4.44%. Therefore, our rate equals 4.44%. Example 2. Richard deposited $5,400 and got back an amount of $6,000 after 2 years. Find Richard's interest rate. Again, you get all the information you need for calculation. Now the rate is unknown. The amount deposited by Richard is $5,400 and he received the amount of money after 2 years, $6,000. The interest equals $6,000 minus $5,400, which equals $600. Now, principal is $5,400, interest is $600, and the time is 2 years. So our rate equals, remember the formula, it's 100 times interest divided by principal times time. So we have 100 times 600 divided by 5,400 times 2. Cross out 2 zeros in the 5,400 with the 100. Again, the 2 down divides 600 and that equals 300. So we have 1 times 300 divided by 54 times 1, which gives us 300 divided by 54. Now we can also divide both 354 by 6, and that gives us 50 divided by 9. So 50 divided by 9 equals 5.5555. The 5 keeps going. So what we do is we'll bring our answer to the nearest decimal, or we bring it to a 2 decimal place. So we have 5.56%. Therefore, our rate equals 5.56%. The next variable we'll be finding is the time, when interest, principal, and rates are given. The time period may be in years, it may be in days, or in months. So for everyone, we have different formula. When the time is in years, the formula for finding the time is interest times 100 divided by P times R. Remember, your I is the interest, the P is the principal, and the R is the rate. But when the time is in days, meaning when you're asked to find the time in days, the formula is interest, which is I, times 100 times 365 divided by P times R. I'm sure you know where we got the 355 from. It's the number of days we have in a year. And lastly, when time is a month, the formula is I times 100 times the number of months we have in the year, which is 12, divided by principal times rates. Now that we have these formulas, let's try out some examples. If principal is given as 3,500 naira and the interest is 700 naira and the rate is 5%, find the time period in years. To find the time period in years, remember the formula is interest times 100 divided by P times R. So time equals 700, which is the interest, times 100 divided by 3,500 times 5. Again, we'll cross out the 2 zeros in 3,500 with the 2 zeros in 700. Then the 7 divides the 35 left, and that gives us 5. So we're left with 1 times 100 divided by 5 times 5, which equals 100 divided by 25, and that gives us 4. So the time rate is 4 years. Now let's find the time in month. When principal is given as 4,800 and the interest is 900 and the rate is 7.5%. Finding the time period in months, the formula again is interest times 100 times 12 divided by principal times rate. So we impute the values of the variables into the formula. So we have 900 times 100 times 12 divided by 4,800 times 7.5. So we cross out the 2 zeros in 4,800 with the 2 zeros in 900. Then the 12 divides the 48 left, and that gives us 4. So we're left with 4 times 100 times 1 divided by 4 times 7.5, which brings us to 900 divided by 30. And that brings our final answer to 30. So the time in months is 30 months. Finally, let's find the time in days. When principal is given as 7,300, the interest is 500 and the rate is 4%. Find the time period in days. Remember the formula for finding the time in days. Simple interest times 100 times 365 divided by P times R. So the interest is 500 times 100 times 365 divided by 7,300 times 3. Again, we cross out the 2 zeros in 7,300, crosses out the 2 zeros in 500. Then 5 cross out the other 5, and that gives us 1. So we're left with 1 times 100 times 365 divided by 73 times 1, which equals 36,500 divided by 73, and that gives us 500. So the time in days equals 500 days. Okay, now I'm going to leave you with some tasks to practice at home using the formulas we've learned. So pen these questions down and practice at home. Question number 1. Find the principal when the time is 4 years, the interest is $400, and the rate is 5% per annum. Question number 2. Find the time when the principal is $7,300, the interest is $500, and the rate is 4%. And question number 3. Find the rate when principal is $10,000, interest is $800, and the time is 5%. Thumbs up to you learners for taking part in today's class, and I'm so glad you've learned a lot. Keep practicing. Remember that the more concepts you learn and practice in math, the stronger your math muscles will be. Till we meet again next time, bye for now.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Podcast for Education. For feedbacks and questions, reach out to us across any of our social media handles on Facebook or Instagram at Africa Business Radio, Twitter at Africa Biz Radio. Remember, you can listen to this particular episode of the Podcast for Education or any other one on our podcast channel. Log on to www.africabusinessradio.com to do so. I am Onoja, saying, do have a lovely one.